quite easy. Right, so the next thing then is how do we get Google Earth, Google Maps to work? So there's two steps to Google Maps. First one is let's come out of this. The first one's over here in the settings. Under Tools, Google Maps. I say the first one, it's the second one. And what you need to do is put your Google Maps key in, and then you need to set up the options here. Now, the crux of this tutorial is how you get your Google Maps API key. So, what we're going to do is go and have a look at Google's website. I'm just going to get the URL up, make sure it's working correctly. Hold on, folks. So I have just gone to a website called console.developers.google.com. Let me just take that and paste that over here. And in here we need to enable APIs and things. Now, when you use it for the first time, it'll ask you to create a project. You just create a project, call it Train Simulator or something. I've actually got my one's called Train Simulator, but I've just created a new one called My Project just because obviously I've already got it set up, so I can't set it up again. So you need to go into Enable APIs for use in your apps. And then under here, you need to find the Static Maps API. So if we click on that, and then Enable API, once it says it's enabled it, that's it, it's done. You can now go to Credentials, and then in here add credentials and say you want an API key, you want a server key, and you don't need to change any of this particularly, and there it is. That's your key. So you take that and paste it into that settings screen. So if you now go into Settings, Tools, Google Maps, you then paste that key in there. Now, one thing I can see here is that there's a space at the end of that key. Make sure you do not include the space. Make sure it is just the code and no extra characters, any blank white space or anything either side of it. So if I take that now, I could press Control C. If I take this code here, delete it and paste that one, you'll notice that at the end here I've got a blank space, and if I try and use this it won't work. Press the delete key and clean that up and you're in good shape. Right, we'll go and have a look at it in a minute. Let's have a quick look at the settings here. Map resolution. So that's how good the data is that your official app is might get. Can you use that API key? No, generate your own. They're free. Right, so 640 by 640 or 1280 by 1280. You need to experiment. When you it depends on how much bandwidth you've got, because you could find yourself downloading a lot of data here. So I would start at 640. I would leave it on the hybrid map. That works fine, but you can choose different maps if they have the data that you want on them. I would set the zoom level somewhere minimum to middle to minimum to start off with, and I'll explain why in a minute. Tiles displayed, again I'd go for the minimum just to get something. What you want to do is prove it works and then change it. If you set it to low, get me all the detail, all the settings, and it doesn't work, then is it the API key? Is it the console config? What's wrong? You don't know. So if you keep all of this stuff easy, so let's chop that to 640, 3x3, move that to the minimum zoom level, and we'll put our API key. If we now press save, I'm now going to press replay and just go back into that level we just created and hit Control E so that we're in the world editor. So you can see the landscape that we imported is still here, which is good to know. And if I now press Control G and then zoom out, there it is. Google Earth is now shown on my map. Now, that is hideously useless because it's so low resolution. But that's fine. The whole point here was to prove it would work. So we now need to come back out and start playing with some settings. Now we know everything else works, we can play with settings. And we can get that looking considerably better. So if we go back into Tools, Google Maps, and we look at the settings, I'm going to bump that to 1280. I'm going to put the zoom level in about halfway, and I'm going to increase it to 5x5 tiles. So let me just leave that there for the time being. We'll go back in and we'll look at what it did. And we press Control G, nothing happens. I press Control E first, now press Control G. So you get it, the blue circles mean it's loading data. Now look at that, that's already significantly better. And you can see these blue circles, you know we just told it to do a 5x5? Well, each of these blue circles represents one tile that it's trying to load. And this is what the problem is. If you tell it you want lots of super duper detail, and you say you want 10x10 or 7x7 data, it can take a while to download it all. So the nice thing is, of course, you don't need anything fancy telling you what's going on, because there's Sheringham Station here, there's the track wandering off down here. We can follow it, we can see individual rails. You know, you can see the roads, you can see the landscape as we move along, so it will just load more data and we can see what's going on. Now, you can zoom in a bit further in some places and you can't in others. What happens is if you zoom in too much, stuff just doesn't work anymore. So if we try doing that so you can see what happens. So if I press this, if I come out of this, I was doing some experimenting in a place called Guernsey in Wyoming. I was looking at the BNSF Canyon subdivision, which is effectively it runs from Guernsey, Wyoming up to the southern side of the Orange subdivision. It's a beautiful, beautiful area, and I started looking at this area and it all worked absolutely brilliant. And then one day it just stopped working and I started getting these, like, there are white boxes everywhere, and it's because all of a sudden Google had taken a data update and they lost the zoom level I was using. So unlike Google, when you zoom in with the mouse, once there's no more zoom levels, they just show you the same thing and it gets pixely. If you do that here, you just get nothing, and that's why. So if I put that to the maximum and hit EA replay and then press Control E and Control G, there's not an awful lot here, is there? The other thing you'll notice is as the zoom level goes up, there really isn't anything here, is there? Looks like we've got road data and not a lot else at this zoom level, which is spectacularly useless, to be perfectly honest. So the data it's providing is variable, and it depends on the region what quality data you'll get. Fringe styling, does this terrain importing include cuttings and tunnels? No. If you imagine that with the terrain data that you've imported, what's happened is someone's put a big blanket over the top of the landscape, and it's a blanket that doesn't flex very much, so you're not going to get lots of details. It's only every 90 meters that you get a point. Now if you imagine that the tunnel mouth is all happening within that 90 meters, so you're not seeing any of it in the detail. You'll still have to terraform from the bit around the track, but all of your distant terrain and so forth, is basically the benefit that you're going to get from doing this. So as you can see, we've zoomed out, and having zoomed out, the squares have got a lot smaller. So you notice we're only covering a tiny area now. The squares have got smaller, but the data's gone away because they just don't have data at this zoom level for this area. Oh, they've got something that says North Norfolk Railway. I guess we found Sheringham, but that's not going to actually help us because I can't see anything. Right, let's try zooming back out a little bit and see whether we can find some more data. Go back to Tools, Google Maps. Let's zoom back out to about there and see whether we get anything worth having. There you go. So we've got a little bit more data. We've gone back to seeing some data at this point. So what you're going to need to do is, for the area that you're trying to model, play with that zoom slider so that you get the data that works for you, and then what you can do is change it so that it loads more or less tiles, so that you can see far enough ahead. Because sometimes that might not be far enough ahead. Now there is another neat trick you can do. What I'm going to do is come over to where the fields are a little bit. You'll find this is going to be, so these images are all going to be a bit time consuming for it to load. This is actually a golf course, if memory serves. It certainly looks like a golf course. So you've got a few controls. Now if I fly down really close, you can see that it's actually it has actually been blanketed over the top of the landscape. It's not actually on the landscape as such. So what you need to do is, you've got this option that slides out over here, and what we can do is, this option is how opaque is the layer. So here it's completely opaque. You cannot see the ground through it, whereas here it's transparent and you cannot see it. Now there is reason why that's useful. So you can put it somewhere in the middle and you can make it appear and disappear, so that you can see a little bit of it, but you can see what's going on underneath. Now where does that come in useful? Well, let's say we want to paint some terrain. Let's go ahead and pick green grass, and I can see here that we've got something going on. Let's make it. Of course, this is all green grass anyway, so that's fine. So let's paint this then. So we need some kind of a... let's go for a light tarmac here, that'll do. No, concrete light, that'll do. So if we go for a concrete light... No. That's a bit big. And we go for, say, 10. And we can paint the concrete under here. Notice you can see what I'm painting because you can see it, and so you can almost do a sort of a paint by numbers thing. Let's make that a bit bigger, so you can see what I'm painting. And whereas if this was all the way over there, you couldn't see it. You'd be painting, but whereas here you can't see the thing either. So you're getting an idea, and you can paint this bit here. You can. So you'd probably do a better job than I do. I'm kind of splatting here, really. This is not nice. And then you can go ahead and say, oh, well, there's a bit of sand there, so let's find some sand. And we'll make that a 10, and we can say, well, let's put that one there, we'll put that one there, and over here we'll put that one there. Okay, these don't look even remotely realistic, but the point is, what you're going to end up with is something that kind of resembles what you're looking for. So again, when you take the landscape away, the stuff starting to appear, you're able to then trace your track through it, because there's no reason why you can't just place the track down. So if I start here, so where we can see it, let me make it a bit more visible. Yeah, you can see the track. It's a twin track on Sheringham platform. If I come here and pick the track, and we start here, we can then just go ahead, trace the track, and it's not easy. It really is not easy to do, to trace the track. So one thing is the track is going straight, whereas the landscape is you're sort of doing anything but going straight, because you've got the terrain. Now, if you've got gradient profile maps, then you can adjust the track to match the gradient profile maps. If you don't, then you just need to make a call as to whether or not you move the track to fit the landscape, or, oops, let's select that one and get rid of it, or whether you move the landscape to fit the track. In some cases, if you've got a cutting, you'll want to move the landscape to fit the track, and sometimes you want to fundamentally move the track to fit the landscape. So here you can see we're starting to get some inkling of where the track is on this route. As I've said before, this is not meant to be a track laying tutorial. I am not a track laying guru. So we can start seeing the track, we can start seeing some of the landscape formations as we go along, and you can start really creating that route. Obviously, you can see the roads over here, so you can create roads. You can see where the houses are, so you can plonk the houses down. So we can go ahead here, find a house, and here is a generic stone house. That will do, and we'll put that there, and we'll put that one there, and we'll put that one there. There you go, there's some houses. So you can plonk some more houses down, and plonking is all I'm doing, but you'll probably do better than I will. Yes, so you can do that. You can adjust the roads. You can see where actually what it looks like is that there's a road goes over the top of here, so you can put that road bridge in there. You can put other roads in. You can put your platforms in. You can really see exactly what's going on. It's actually very easy. Okay, so that's really Google Maps, and how Google Maps helps you in your route building, so that instead of trying to work it out before Google Maps, you had to use markers, and I'm going to get to how you do that in a minute because they are still useful. And the way that which meant that instead of having all of this visual data, you'd create markers which would just give you points, and then you'd have to work it out by having Google Earth or having maps, literally maps and photographs on one screen, and then looking at the other screen and actually trying to replicate the two there. So obviously you can see where cars are. Let's put some cars in, shall we? Have we got cars in here? Where are cars when I want them? I want to put cars down. Surely there are cars. Decal car park. Oh, there you are. We could put decal down. Car park 2x1. That's that one. There you go. Hatchback. So we can put that car in there. That's sort of exactly not where I wanted you to go. And we can put another car over here. So again, you're just tracing where things go, putting them in the right places, and filling in the detail. It becomes more painting by numbers. It's pretty straightforward. So that is Google Maps. So that's tutorial 2 out of 3. So the first one we did was getting type map data in. This one has been about getting Google Maps working. So the fundamental 2 steps are: get onto the console, the developer console for Google, activate Static Maps API, and get yourself an API key, and then paste that API key onto the into the settings. There is actually another setting, like another couple of settings on here I haven't mentioned. So one of them is the height. This one is the height of it. So you can actually change the height of this overlay and just move it up and down. The minimum is almost exactly on the landscape, but what you'll see is that depending on how sort of rough the landscape is, it actually breaks through. So you can just lift it up a little bit as you need to. And sometimes you just want to lift it up out of the way, look underneath it, and then put it back down again. So that's how you can adjust the height of that. And then you've also got these this pause control, means that I can fly over here and have it not loading data all the way that I go. So having gone over here, I can then press play, and it will now load all the data in for this section, so that I can move without having to deal with all this. You can see how it's lagging as I'm trying to move around here. Because it's trying to load all this stuff in, and if I just don't want it to load this stuff in, I can hit pause and it will stop, and I can walk over here and find another place. So that's the detail on that one. So for instance, says, is it a good idea to use Snap to Train when laying tracks on real routes? I wouldn't personally. I've had no end of trouble with the Snap to Terrain tool. I would just lay the track and then work out whether or not you want the terrain to fit the track, or whether you want to move the track to fit the terrain. Because sometimes you'll find that you actually are in a cutting. So if I fly back over to where we were working, there is a cutting just down the corner from here, and because you can usually see it. in the sort of the shading and so forth. This is where having lots of high zoom maps is actually a bit of a problem. So you can see here, well, that's looking like it might actually be a bit of a cutting going on in there. You can see here, it's sort of that sort of feels like it's in a cutting, and so you can shape the landscape there according to what you want. Use cab ride videos and other information to sort of give you an idea of what the local terrain looks like within the sort of a few meters either side of the track, and leave the rest of the terrain alone. Even if it's not 100% accurate, don't waste your time on it. It's close enough. It's that sort of 20 meters either side of the track you need to get absolutely bang on, and you can do that. You can do that relatively easily just by looking at a number of different sources. Okay, so I think I've pretty much covered that one now. So, the next one, if you thought these, Fringestein says, would it be easier to build with one track and use the offset tool when it's set to train critically instead of 2 tracks? Yes, you probably could use the offset tool, having got one track down. But it doesn't really matter too much because you can lay and fix multiple tracks simultaneously anyway. So if I've got multiple tracks here, so if I go back to the track tool and I lay 3 tracks, not 34, no, we don't want 34, let's do 2. So if we lay 2 tracks and no, that's not what I asked for. That's not what I asked for. So if you lay 2 tracks and you want to change the height of them, if you go into the height thing and put that, if you press and hold and then slice across, you can create height markers, and then they're locked together. So as you move one, it moves them both together. So you can create. Oops! If you do what I've just done there, and I've created another one. So if I don't get rid of that, that's what you're going to get, which is, yeah, that's not going to do anyone any favours, is it? So if you click on it and press delete, it will get rid of it. Yeah, and then you can move it again individually. Press undo. If I don't know if I think I can. I don't think you can click them together again now once they've been. Oh, there you go. So you can join. You can take multiple tracks and you can move them around. That's going to be fun to drive over, isn't it? So yes, you can lay once and then use the offset tool to put the other ones back in, or you can lay multiple and just fix them simultaneously. There's no real challenge there. Okay, can you hit multiple height markers at once to alter altogether? Yes, you can. I just did that. So if I click that and I click that one, I think if I click, so if I just move that, it's going to do that. If I click that and shift click that, no? I thought you could. There you go. Control click. So if you control click, control click, control click, control click, move them, there you go. And that allows you to move them all, and even though these actually might not be at the same height, it will just move them all simultaneously. Oops, get rid of that one. So if I move that one down now, and if I click and then control click and control and control, and then I move, you'll see they're still all being moved regardless, so that's no problem at all. Now drive on this route. What you do is you get it to where you can drift and then have the train trying to negotiate both of those two together. Oh, welcome Darkness, I'm glad to hear your father's doing well. That's really good news. Okay. Britannica, if the game is not importing the height data, then it's either in the wrong place or there's something wrong with it. So I'll revisit the steps. Maybe try somewhere different. It could always be something wrong with the data that with the location. You'll find that different areas of the world have different qualities of data, even when it's coming from the same place, which is something you get used to. But if in doubt, just try using different areas and see if you can prove that it works, and then go back to the area that was causing a problem, and that will tell you whether or not. So if you do this area, you can see this area works. So if you do this area around North Norfolk, then if it works, then if it doesn't work for you, then it's your data, or the way that you're using the data that's causing your problem. Okay, so the next thing is how you then use markers. So markers are up here. You notice I've got one